Excellencies, dignitaries, experts, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all of you, the speakers and participants who are joining us online from different time zones. I welcome you all to this high-level policy dialogue on multi-stakeholder partnerships to accelerate SDG 6 via water transversality. This event is organized by India Water Foundation and supported by 𝐼𝐶𝐼-𝐀, International Water Resources Association, International Network of Basin Organizations, and World Water Council. This is an official side event of High-Level Political Forum 2026. As per the new UN SDG 6 synthesis report, progress remains uneven and insufficient to achieve SDG 6 by 2030. Large disparities persist between and within countries, and many of the people still left behind are among the most vulnerable. Over the past decade, water has become increasingly visible in climate plans, biodiversity strategies, landscape restoration initiatives, and national development frameworks. Yet, implementation often remains fragmented. Different ministries, funding mechanisms, and policy processes continue to operate in parallel, limiting opportunities for synergies, collaboration, and impact. So how do we tackle the challenge of financial funding and sustainability, inter and intra-country cooperation in accelerating SDG 6? We aim to find out the answers for some of these questions by the end of this high-level policy dialogue. To initiate the dialogue, I request Dr. Arvind Kumar to present the overview of this session. Dr. Arvind Kumar is a strategist and key influencer in development sector with more than 31 years of experience as an author, columnist, water and human rights proactivist, and specializes in concepts like ecosystem-based adaptation, water energy food nexus, with specific emphasis on transversal approach of interlinkages between water, environment, and SDGs. He has published over 500 plus research articles and several books. He is a proud recipient of Achievers Award for his contribution to the environment from International Human Rights Organization in collaboration with the United Nations Information Center. Dr. Arvind Kumar, please.
Thank you, Sweta. Distinguished colleagues and esteemed partners, and ladies and gentlemen, Sri Amit Kumar Ghosh, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Sri Sampath Kumar, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Meghalaya, Dr. Eric Tadu, Director General of International Office for Water, Secretary General, International Network of Basin Organizations, and Vice President of World Water Council, Ms. Sonia Kapil, Secretary to the UNEC Water Convention, Ms. Maya Oka, Country Director, India Asian Development Bank, Professor Eddie Moore, former Rector and Director, IHE Delft Institute of Water Education, Ms. Ulrich Deputy Executive Director, International Water Resource Association, Dr. Neera Sreshta Pradhan, Water and DRR, Lead International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, Mr. Arsman Mitra, Senior Water Economist, World Bank. I welcome you all to this high-level policy dialogue on a subject that I believe will define the trajectory of sustained development for decades to come. We gather here at a critical juncture as we approach the final stretch of 2030 agenda. We must confront an uncomfortable truth. Progress on Sustainable Development Goal 6 remains dangerously off track. The United Nations tells us that none of the SDG 6 targets are on track. At our current pace, the world will not achieve sustainable water management until at the least 2049, nearly 2 decades beyond the SDG deadline. The numbers are sobering. Today, 2.5 out of 10 people lacks safely managed drinking water. Only 46% of wastewater is treated, and 43% of water bodies are in poor environmental condition. The financing gap is equally staggering. Achieving universal access require an estimated $114 billion per year in new capital investment, yet current official development assistance to the sector hovers around $13 billion USD annually. The World Bank projects the global water infrastructure investment gap could reach a staggering $1 trillion USD 2030. There is not merely statistics. They represents real human lives, real human dignity, and unrealized real human potential. But today, I do not wish to dwell on despair. I wish to speak of possibility. I speak of transformation, and wish to speak on transversality. Water is invisible thread that runs through every dimensions of sustainable development, from food security and energy provision to public health, biodiversity conservation, and climate resilience. As the United Nations University has powerfully articulated, we have entered an era of water bankruptcy where long-term water use exceeds renewable limits. Yet, within this crisis lies an extraordinary opportunity. Water is not merely a sectoral issue, it is an enabling condition for productive development, territorial resilience, social inclusion, climate adaptation, and institutional capacity building. Water is the operating system of climate resilience. This is essence of water transversality, an integrated cross-sectoral approach that positions in water as central connecting thread across development systems, explicitly linking it with energy, food, health, environment, climate, economy, governance, and social equality. When we understand water this way, we realize that decisions taken in every sector influence water outcomes and vice versa. A policy on agriculture is a policy on water. A policy on energy is a decision on water. An investment in urban development is an investment or disinvestment in water security. The scientific and policy case for transversality is well established. The Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change Sixth Assessment Report stresses ecosystem-based adaptation and mitigation as a vital for tackling climate risk. The Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services Nexus Assessment warned that disconnected governance accelerates biodiversity decline across climate, food, water, and health systems. The 2026 UN Water Conference has itself placed accelerating SDG 6 through collective action and multi-stakeholder partnerships at the heart of its preparatory processes. The incoming COP31 presidency and FAO has unveiled the Turkish Nexus initiative aimed at integrating food security, water management, and climate adaptation into national climate plans. The global consensus is clear: no single sector, no single government, no single institution can achieve SDG 6 alone. Allow me to briefly outline the three dimensions where transversely must take root. First, water as a economic infrastructure. Too often, water is treated as a social good to be managed in isolation from economic planning. This is a profound error. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank 2026 report, where the water flows reframes the water cycle as a critical infrastructure, a transboundary economic engine storing, moving, and renewing resource across borders. The World Economic Forum estimates the annual economic value of water ecosystem is 58 USD trillion. Therefore, when we undervalue water in economic planning, we undervalue our entire economic future. Second, water is a geopolitical bridge. Water does not recognize political boundaries, yet our governance system are fractured along precisely those lines. The transversality demands that we view transversality reverse not a source of discord, but as instruments of bringing countries closer together. Water must remain a bridge between nations, guided by cooperation, dialogue, and respect for international law. Third, water as social justice. The water crisis is also crisis of inequality. Women and girls bear the greatest burden, spending countless hours collecting water that should flow freely to their home. In India, where 18% of the world population lives on just 4% of world's freshwater resources, the intersection of water, stress, and poverty is particularly acute. Moody's has recently assigned India its highest water risk score, citing groundwater depletion, aging infrastructure, and fragmented water governance. But Transversality offer a way forward, embedding water at the center of planning for poverty reduction, health, agriculture, energy, and climate resilience. Distinguished colleague, the questions before us are not theoretical. They are practical, urgent, and actionable. And I am confident that with the caliber of experts and practitioners assembled here, we will generate recommendations that are not only intellectually rigorous but practically implementable. Let me conclude with a thought that has guided that India Water Foundation's work for many years. Water is not a problem to be solved in isolation. Water is a solution to be unleashed across sectors. When water reaches the last household with reliability and fairness, it becomes the most quiet and powerful force for equality, dignity, and sustainable development. It reduces the burden of disease, strengthen the productivity, protect economies from the systemic risk, and fosters economy in the increasingly fragmented world. I look forward to a rich and productive dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Thank you for giving the overview of the session. I now request our other speaker, Shri 𝐻LPD, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Uttar Pradesh, for his address, please. Mr. Ghosh.
Thank you very much, Shweta ji. Distinguished delegates, esteemed panelists, representatives of governments, international organizations, academia, civil society organizations, and other participants. At the outset, let me congratulate the India Water Foundation for organizing this timely and forward-looking high-level policy dialogue, and also for providing me the opportunity to share the perspective of the government of Uttar Pradesh in India on this critical subject. The concept of water transversality is not merely an environmental or water sector discussion. I believe it is fundamentally a discussion about human well-being. It is a discussion about public health. And it is also a discussion about economic resilience. And therefore, it is a discussion about sustainable development. As a public health administrator, I firmly believe that water is more than just a resource. Water is medicine. Water is prevention. Water is dignity. Water is development. And we in India believe that water is life, and we address our major rivers as mothers. Coming to the Sustainable Development Goals, when we discuss SDG 6, we are simultaneously discussing maternal health, child survival, nutrition, education, climate resilience, disease prevention, and social equity. We'll be talking about this further during my address. Globally, despite significant progress, billions still lack access to safely managed drinking water and sanitation. The consequences are not limited to waterborne diseases alone. Unsafe water contributes to malnutrition, stunting, antimicrobial resistance, maternal infections, poor educational outcomes, and reduced economic productivity. In fact, from 1st July to 31st July this year, in UP, we have launched a campaign called Sambhav 6.0, which is the 6th edition of Sambhav, and it means possibility, where we are trying to address exactly these issues. And the question of good quality of water is central to all the solution to all these problems I've narrated. Let me also further say that we have also launched a 13-department program on reducing communicable diseases. And this 1 month campaign also focuses very strongly on sanitation and water quality. Therefore, I say that the traditional approach of treating water, health, sanitation, environment and climate, etc., as separate sectors is no longer viable. The future lies in convergence, and we just heard Dr. Arvind Kumar say that the concept of transversality of water is going to be relevant in the decades ahead. Therefore, we can agree that the concept of water transversality is a transformative concept. It recognizes water as the connecting thread linking health systems, food systems, ecosystems, energy systems, and local economies. And for health professionals, public health professionals, this approach closely aligns with the emerging One Health network, which acknowledges the interconnectedness of human health, animal health, and environmental health. As you all know, in the month of November 2025, the Honorable Prime Minister of India has launched the National One Health Mission. And we in UP are working. In fact, we are at the final stages of launching the State One Health Mission. We have drawn up the 10-year framework for the same. And we are inspired by this concept of One Health, where water, environment, all these will play a central role. UP, as you know, is home to more than 240 million people, and every sixth Indian resides in UP. So, we have already learned that sustainable health outcomes cannot be achieved through hospitals and medicines alone. Prevention remains the most cost-effective healthcare intervention. Every case of diarrhea prevented through safe drinking water, every maternal infection avoided through sanitation, and every child protected from waterborne diseases reduces pressure on the healthcare infrastructure while improving the quality of life. Under the visionary leadership of our Chief Minister, Honorable Shri Yogi Adityanath ji, the state of Uttar Pradesh has undertaken unprecedented efforts to strengthen the water health nexus. We have a mission called the Jal Jeevan Mission, the Water Life Mission, wherein already more than 26.6 million rural households have been connected with tap water supply, thus dramatically improving access to safe drinking water across the state. Particularly noteworthy is the progress in traditionally water-stressed regions of the state called 𝐿𝐻𝐿 and 𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿, where access to pipe water is transforming lives and livelihoods. So, basically, all this achievement goes beyond, simple construction. It represents behavioral transformation, community participation, waste management, and protection of public health. From the perspective of Health and Family Welfare Department and the Medical Education Department, where I am presently working, our focus is increasingly on integrating water, sanitation, and hygiene into healthcare delivery. We recognize that health facilities themselves must be models of safe water and sanitation. Whether it is a primary health center in a remote village or a tertiary care medical institution in a city, access to safe water, sanitation facilities, infection prevention systems, and hygiene practices are indispensable for quality healthcare. Furthermore, we are strengthening disease surveillance systems to identify and respond rapidly to waterborne disease. Climate-sensitive diseases are emerging as an increasing challenge. Heat waves, we are currently going through one. Floods, changing rainfall patterns, and groundwater stress also directly influence disease burdens. Therefore, climate resilience and water security must become integral components of public health planning. Medical education, another area that I oversee, must also evolve. Doctors, nurses, Public health professionals of tomorrow must understand that the environmental determinants of health are very important. They must be trained not only to treat diseases, but to also understand the ecological and social conditions that cause them. In this regard, our medical education institutions are increasingly embracing interdisciplinary approaches that connect public health, community health, environmental science, epidemiology, and public outreach. Another significant lesson that I can share from our state of Uttar Pradesh is the importance of technology and community ownership, from solar-powered water supply systems and digital monitoring mechanisms to village-level water quality testing and community participation through local institutions. Innovation has become a critical enabler of sustainability. But we also know that technology alone is insufficient. Sustainable outcomes emerge when communities become partners rather than beneficiaries. Dear colleagues, as we look ahead, I believe that the next frontier lies in creating integrated water, health, climate dashboards, linking water quality data with disease surveillance systems, promoting nature-based solutions, strengthening groundwater recharge, and expanding partnerships among governments, academia, development institutions, civil society, and the private sector. Thus, we can say that the challenges before us are complex, but the solutions are available. What is required is convergence of vision, convergence of finances mentioned by Dr. Kumar just now, convergence of governments, and convergence of action. Let me now conclude by emphasizing that SDG 6 is not only about water security, it is about human security. It is about ensuring that every child can grow healthy, every mother can live with dignity, every community can thrive, and every ecosystem can remain resilient. The government of Uttar Pradesh remains committed to advancing this integrated agenda and working with all stakeholders to transform water from a sectoral concern into a catalyst for sustainable and inclusive development. I once again thank Dr. Kumar from the India Water Foundation for this timely policy dialogue, and I congratulate all the participants for giving their valuable time to this very, very important agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ghosh, and we totally align with what you have been saying, that water and climate cannot be thought in silos. We definitely have to keep policies aligned on this. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Our next speaker is Ms. Sonia Koppel. She leads the water team at the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe and serves as secretary to the Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes of the Water Convention. She is also co-secretary to the UNECE WHO Euro Protocol on Water and Health. Sonia, please.
Thank you very much. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning. It's a pleasure to join you from New York today for this high-level policy dialogue organized by the India Water Foundation. The theme of this dialogue today is both timely and highly relevant. Water indeed underpins climate resilience, food security, biodiversity, public health, and sustainable development. Yet it continues to be governed through fragmented institutional and sectoral approaches. Accelerating progress towards SDG 6 therefore requires stronger institutions, integrated governance, and effective cooperation across sectors and stakeholders. As you have already said, the SDG 6 synthesis report to be launched later today by UN Water shows that there has been some progress on SDG 6. The SDG 6 itself, as well as its monitoring, has helped, but progress is too slow and uneven across targets in region. For example, ecosystems are degrading and water quality is still insufficient in many places of the world. For example, in Central Asia, Southeastern Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa. A particular challenge, but also opportunity, lies in the fact that more than 60% of all fresh water crosses national borders. Transboundary cooperation can bring many benefits beyond water, such as for sustainable development, peace, food and energy security, regional integration, etc. However, only 43 out of 153 countries sharing transboundary waters have most of their shared waters covered by operational arrangements for water cooperation and can thereby reap the full benefits of cooperation. The UN Water Convention is a unique legal and intergovernmental framework serviced by UNECE, which has for more than 3 decades helped countries to prevent conflicts and promote sustainable development. Originally negotiated in the UNECE region and now open to all UN member states since 2016, it currently counts 59 parties, including many from Africa, Latin America, Middle East, and also Bangladesh from South Asia. Through the convention, we support countries in strengthening governance, promoting integrated water resource management, improving monitoring and data sharing, adapting to climate change, and building the institutional capacities needed for effective cooperation. The convention and also the protocol on water and health service together with WHO provide a practical framework to put into practice SDGs. I would like to share 3 main lessons of the work under the convention in the last decades. Firstly, sustainable water management begins with cooperation. At its core, the convention provides a platform for countries to build trust, strengthen dialogue, and develop practical solutions for managing shared waters in cooperation with different partners, many of which are here today, such as INBO and IUCN and many others. In Central Asia, for example, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, with our support, have demonstrated how institutionalized cooperation can deliver practical results in the Chu and Talas river basins. The Joint Chu-Talas River Commission coordinates the operation and maintenance of water infrastructure, supports coordinated water allocation and operational planning, and facilitates the regular exchange of hydrological data. The convention provides a platform for sharing this information at global level with other countries and regions. The convention has also promoted cooperation across sectors through its Water, Food, Energy Ecosystem Nexus task force and work in Central Asia as an example. Through nexus assessments in the Sirdarya and Amudarya river basins, it has brought together ministries responsible for water, energy, agriculture, and the environment to jointly assess trade-offs across sectors. The resulting policy dialogue has informed regional planning and helped identify policy and investment priorities in areas such as water management, irrigation efficiency, hydropower development, and ecosystem restoration, demonstrating how transboundary cooperation can become a catalyst for broader cross-sectoral governance, the very essence of water transversality. Secondly, the importance of inclusive governance. Cooperation is strongest when it is inclusive. Governments, joint bodies, river basin organizations, civil society, academia, the private sector, and local communities each bring complementary expertise and capacities. Multi-stakeholder partnerships help transform dialogues into coordinated action and more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable water solutions. This principle is reflected in the national policy dialogues supported under the conventions in countries in Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia, and now also will start the same activity in Iraq. These dialogues bring together ministries responsible for water, agriculture, energy, and environment, together with relevant actors from academia, civil society, etc., to advance water policy reforms at national level. These dialogues have helped build consensus around integrated water resources management and climate adaptation, illustrating how inclusive governance strengthens both the quality and legitimacy of water decision-making. Third and final message, the importance of strong institutions and continuous dialogue. The experience of the Convention has shown that cooperation does not happen by itself. It depends on effective institutions, regular dialogue, transparency, and the exchange of reliable information and data. These are the foundation that enable countries to implement integrated water resources management and make progress towards SDG 6. The Convention experience has also shown that strong institutions provide the continuity to sustain cooperation beyond political cycles. For example, in Africa, in the Senegal and Mauritania Aquifer Basin, we have been helping the countries now since more than 7 years in establishing transboundary cooperation on the shared aquifer basin between Senegal, Mauritania, the Gambia, and Guinea-Bissau, bringing together different sectors, combining studies and data with policy work, and thereby facilitating the signing of an MOU between the countries and attracting funding from the World Bank, GEF, Italy, and the European Union. As preparation advanced towards the 2026 UN Water Conference, those lessons become increasingly relevant. And achieving SDG 6 really requires moving from commitment to implementation by strengthening cooperation, institutions, and partnership, such as what we also aim to do in the framework of the Transboundary Water Cooperation Coalition. In this context, today's dialogue provides an important opportunity to exchange experiences. I'm confident that this discussion will further strengthen partnerships, and I call upon all of you to become active and engage in the run-up to the 2026 UN Water Conference and also the next meeting of the parties of the Water Convention to be held in October next year in Dakar, Senegal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And we definitely are all geared up to be part of the UN Water Conference and looking forward to listen to interventions, be part of deliberations. And I'm sure the water action agenda is on everyone's table right now. And thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule and speaking at such early in the morning from New York. Thank you so much. Is Ms. Miyoka, are you able to join from ADB? Has some?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, we are able to hear you. Thank you so much. I'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Distinguished participants and partners, I'm very pleased to join this high-level dialogue on multi-stakeholder partnership to accelerate SDG 6 through water transversality. Water connects almost every aspect of development. It shapes food security, public health, urban livability, ecosystems, climate resilience, and economic competitiveness. Yet, while water transversality is widely recognized, translating into practice remains very difficult. In many countries, including my country in Japan, water governance is often fragmented across ministries, departments, and institutions, each with different mandates, priorities, and financing mechanisms. Planning is frequently undertaken in silos. As a result, we miss opportunities to optimize water allocation, improve resource efficiency, and strengthen climate resilience. At the same time, climate change, rapid urbanization, groundwater depletion, ecosystem degradation, and the growing competition among agricultural, industrial, environmental, and domestic water users are placing unprecedented pressure on water resources. This is why ADB's approach is anchored in integrated water resource management. Water security depends on managing water resources, services, and ecosystems in an integrated manner across different sectors, institutions, and administrative boundaries. Water transversality builds on this foundation. It means embedding water considerations into development planning and investments across agriculture, cities, and natural resources and climate action. It helps identify synergies, manage competing demands, and strengthen the resilience of both people and ecosystems. In this way, water security becomes a driver of sustainable development, not simply a sector objective. In India, ADB is embedding water across interconnected development pathways. In agriculture and food systems, in our initiatives in Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka are strengthening irrigation efficiency and promoting climate-smart agriculture, helping farmers improve water use efficiency while adapting to climate variability. In nature and ecosystems, ADB has supported river basin and watershed management in Assam, Meghalaya, and Himachal Pradesh, integrating watershed restoration, flood risk management, and nature-based solutions to strengthen upstream, downstream resilience. In addition, we try to create employment for the local community. In urban development, water is central to livable, resilient, and competitive cities. Through platforms like Urban Challenge Fund, ADB is helping cities pilot and scale solutions in water supply, sanitation, drainage, and climate resilience, while we try to have more private sector participation in these areas. A strong example is Amravati, Andhra Pradesh, where ADB, jointly with the World Bank, support core urban infrastructure systems, including water supply network, sewerage system, and urban drainage planning. This allows integrated water planning to be embedded into the DNA of a new climate-resilient capital city from the very beginning. Across these engagements, our objective is not simply to finance individual projects. It is to ensure that investments are mutually reinforcing, maximize development effectiveness, strengthen systemic resilience, and advance inclusive and sustainable growth. The next question is, how do we make this ambition financially viable? Public resources alone will not be sufficient. We all know that. We need innovative financing solutions that strategically combine public resources, concessional financing, and private capital. In India, as I mentioned, ADB is supporting urban local bodies to improve creditworthiness and access market-based finance, including through municipal bonds and value capture financing mechanisms. We are also leveraging facilities such as Innovative Financing Facility for Climate in Asia and Pacific, which helps de-risk investment and mobilize private capital at scale. Beyond the cities, under the Maharashtra Agni Business Network project, ADB is helping farmer producer organizations and value chain operators across access investment and working capital finance, complemented by matching grant and business development support. This enables small and medium enterprise across horticulture value chain to invest in post-harvest infrastructure, strengthen competitiveness, and build more resilient inclusive agri-food system. But financing infrastructure alone are not good enough. Durable outcomes require strong inclusion in local ownership. In irrigation investment, ADB has supported water user associations, enabling farming communities, including women farmers, to manage operation and maintenance, adapt micro-irrigation technologies, and promote more equitable water allocation. In urban water supply, sanitation, and flood management programs, we prioritized socially excluded vulnerable groups through participatory planning. Our gender equality and social inclusion approach help ensure the women and girls benefit from the time savings, improved services, and greater voice in water governance. To conclude, ADB does not treat water as a standalone sector. We see water as a strategic development enabler, one that cuts across sectors, mobilizes innovative finance, empowers communities, strengthens evidence systems, and accelerates progress towards inclusive, green, and climate-resilient growth. Thank you. I look forward to the discussion by others and continued collaboration.
Thank you so much, Ms. Oka, for your comments and interventions. And I am absolutely in conjunction with what you said, that climate smart agriculture is something that we need to adopt, because we cannot do without food with such a burgeoning population, but we have to find ways how to do it properly. So thank you so much for your time. And before I invite the other speaker, let me first introduce Ms. Mia Oka. She started speaking and I wasn't able to introduce her. So she's the country director for India at the Asian Development Bank with nearly 3 decades of professional experience, including over 20 years at ADB. She has held leadership positions in diverse sectors across South and Southeast Asia and has played a key role in advancing sustainable infrastructure, climate resilience, and development cooperation across the region. Thank you so much, Ms. Oka. And now, before I invite my other speaker, may I request all of you to please open your camera so that we can at least have one screenshot of us all. Shri Ghosh, if you're there, if you can just open your camera. Although we have your speaker's shot, but still we would like to have one screenshot. Anyway, we'll have the screenshot. So say cheese, please, all of you. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker for today is Dr. Eric Tardu, Director General, International Office for Water, Secretary General, International Network of Basin Organizations, Vice President of the World Water Council, and innumerable more affiliations are there. He has over 25 years of experience in water governance, environmental policy, and international cooperation. Dr. Tardu has led initiatives in integrated water resources management, capacity building, and water information systems. Dr. Tardu, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've just asked the possibility to share my screen, if you can allow that.
I have allowed please.
Thank you really for the invitation. We are very happy to continue this conversation with our colleagues from the India Water Foundation. And I believe this is really important to take part in this important moment of the global water conversation, and especially about our commitments for dialogue and for cooperation. I'm sharing now. Thank you very much. I would like to first start with a brief presentation of where I speak from 𝐼MBO. 𝐼MBO is a network with the main objective really to promote and to better organize IWRM at basin scale, including at transboundary level, like our colleague Sonia already mentioned. And the network is operated by a technical permanent secretariat based in Paris with a rotating presidency. I'm very honored to confirm that Brazil is our new chair country for the 2 years to come. We just had our World Basin Summit in Rio de Janeiro, and if you're interested, you will see a lot of lessons learned and experience shared on our web pages. So obviously, basin authorities are multi-stakeholder partnerships, and that's their core characteristic. And they are operators of water transversality. And we believe that they can be accelerators of the implementation of SDG 6. And to do that, the key word of my messages today will be really integration. As it has been already mentioned, and the transition, I believe, is perfect with our colleague from ADB, Mrs. Miyoka. IWRM has to be implemented as really an operational approach, as practical tools at the basin level, with informed and shared water information systems, with the possibility to design and to implement management plans. That means plans for measures, plans for investments, and this has to be done with an inclusive governance. That means cross-sectoral approach. That means transboundary cooperation in the case of transboundary basins. And that means to address all the sectors, the challenges related to water resources. Obviously, human health and well-being, but also economic efficiency, environmental protection. This is really a core part of a sustainable development approach. And so the specificities of all the territories, in many cases where adaptation is needed, adaptation to climate change, adaptation to population growth, adaptation to economic and agricultural growth. One example here that I wanted to share is the partnership that INBO is implementing with FAO. I wanted to share our project with one of the UN agencies, since we are in this UN context. This is about IWRM and sustainable fisheries. Fisheries are very important water use in many cases, and we are trying to develop pilot projects in many regions of the world, in the Lake Victoria, for example, the Mekong River Basin, the Titicaca Lake, the Santa Fe region in Argentina, and also the Amazon Basin. So this is a very concrete illustration of a better coherence, a better integration between water security and food security. And we really need more multi-stakeholder efforts, more coherence between the different public policies too, and more inclusive governance. Another necessity for integration is the approach of what we have to consider as water resources. In many regions of the world now, we need to extend this approach in order to really include and mainstream desalination and treated wastewater reuse. In many parts of the world, these new or non-conventional water resources have become or are becoming at the core of the water resources mix. But of course, we need, as for the other and more traditional water resources, to know them, to assess them, to have monitoring system, and to include them into the governance approach, into the planning exercises, and in order to allocate these different resources for the different water users. And in this approach, water demand management becomes even more critical. Another aspect of integration that is really at the very core conditions for success is the integration of water information systems. We need to have a more extended sharing approach of the data production, of the data mobilization, but all the water users. Data sharing is not only a technical tool. This is really a trigger for better decision-making processes, including for public policies, of course. And last example that is really a very strong mobilization for us at INBO right now is this multi-stakeholder partnership, again, between different basin organizations. We just launched last year this peer-to-peer project that allows us to really enhance the lessons sharing approaches between different basin organizations themselves. They share their expertise, they share their challenges, they share their solutions. And I think this is also an important part of the water transversality that we want to achieve. I will stop here. I hope I haven't been too long. Thank you for listening to me. Here is just at the end a few events where we'll be participating, and you are very welcome to participate to these events. Back to you, Shweta Tyagi. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tadu, and you haven't taken much time, and you've been perfect. Thank you so much. So now my next speaker for today's evening is Shri Sampath Kumar, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Meghalaya and CEO of the Meghalaya Basin Development Authority. He has shared with us his pre-recorded video message, so I'll be sharing it with you all.
Meghalaya is, one of the most beautiful states in India, and it has a significance because it receives the world's highest rainfall, and it's a very fragile state in terms of climate change. Those places are actually, facing water scarcity. So this speaks of how actually the climate change is impacting the world. And ask the people, what is that important, pain point what they have. In fact, they put water scarcity as an important pain point over unemployment. So we understood this issue. Then we have come up with a very systemic transformation over the last 6-7 years. What the state has done was, in fact, we have come out with, how actually earlier we used to work in silos, like different departments working in silos. But like again, we brought a lot of interdepartmental collaboration. And instead of actually, working for programs, we actually started working with a landscape-based approach where all the programs are working through landscape. The idea is that how do we actually create more sustainability in terms of water security and also including the livelihoods. Again, we also gave a lot of emphasis on the importance of livelihoods. It's not just only conservation, but also livelihoods are also important. So we have actually earlier we used to focus a lot on providing, like, basically our measures were how do you actually conserve forest through a lot of restrictions. But what we did, we brought out a new policy called Payment to Ecosystem Services, which actually provides incentives to conserve forests. And we started working in a very systematic way, again involving the communities, using the landscape approach in terms of like providing the community nurseries and involving them both basically so that like they can use the activities that are being implemented in this particular area to not only help in conserving the water or catchment areas, but also provide livelihoods to them. Learning from the indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge. The state has a very unique bridges that everyone talks about, living root bridges. In fact, through this project, we could able to organize the communities in over 100 villages where they have come together to protect the entire living root bridge ecosystem. Which actually includes a lot of flora and fauna within that area, to really see that like how actually the entire community traditional knowledge can be understood and leveraged for larger climate change action. It is a very interconnected problem. So it requires a systemic solution. So it requires a lot of partnerships. In fact, the state is proactively partnering with a lot of multilateral development banks. That's one. So who are very keen on working on the climate change, whether it's World Bank or Asian Development Bank or JICA or KFW. So we have all these multilateral development banks are working in the state of Meghalaya. That's one. Number two, we are also actually getting the very good technical organizations, who are there within the country. In fact, almost everyone is working in Meghalaya, bringing their good practices to the state. And also, in the process, we are also contextualizing some of these innovations within the state. For example, one case I would say, we are using aromatic plantation not only for creating livelihoods, but also to clean the water, to clean the rivers. So it's like that. We are bringing a lot of innovative ideas into the state.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sampath Kumar. And Meghalaya is really turning from the wettest state into a desert and now finally coming back to become the greenest state in the one of the greenest state in the country is really appreciative. And we really appreciate your initiatives. Thank you so much. My next speaker today is Professor Eddie Moose. He is former rector and director of IHE Delft Institute for Water Education. He is a distinguished Dutch hydrologist, climate scientist, and water management expert with extensive experience in hydrology, climate change, and sustainable water management. Professor Moose, please.
Can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
And I hope it's also in full presentation mode. So thank you very much for the invitation and also the possibilities actually also to listen to former panelists. I think it was a quite nice overview on the importance of transversality. And I picked up a few words besides the nice examples that I have seen. One of them is integration. Another one that also came back is inclusive governance. And that's where I would like to continue my talk a little bit upon. I would like to include capacity development perspective in there, because I do think that that's an important part. And that's also something that we will need there. Just as one additional example there, this is coming from a study, a foresight study that was done by the European Parliament last year. And that was done because, as was also just heard in the former example, also in the EU, there is an increasing actually impact of shortage of water, not only by climate change, but also, of course, by population changes, but also all other needs that are there. But that requires actually a stronger collaboration also across boundaries, which was one of the outcomes of this foresight study. But another one that was very important is the public awareness and education on water. Examples there are, in this case, on the conservation and the conservation of water, which is a vital part. And if you want to implement measures like that, you need actually the general public also to join you in those studies. And again, I would like to refer to some of the earlier speakers who give, I think, some quite nice examples where they also emphasize this impact. They did not mention education in specifically in there, but I do think that education can play a very big role in there. And why is that? That's because I do think that education is the bedrock of informed citizenship. And if you inform people, and I think through education and through schools, that is a very easy, well-established pathway, you can enable individuals to participate in a meaningful way. And I think we need that, and we will need that more and more, because we're looking at new implementations, new innovations, both technical and social, that are required actually to make a next step. Another important part in education, and that's related also to the research side of education, this academic education in there, where we need to think about paradigm shifts, where we have to think in a critical way. What are the developments that we need? How can we do that in a good way? And how is that sustainable in the long run? Another important part why I think education is important, because I do think that we need to interest more young people in working in the water sector. And this is just from the newspaper from last year, where also in America, they lack experienced workers. But I think that we can conclude, if we look in the different countries, that we are going to lack, if we don't lack them already, more people working in the water sector, because with the increasing challenges and with the innovations that are there, I think the best way of implementing them in a fast way is through training. Now, I would like to separate two parts of training in there. One is the slow one, which I think is related to primary schools and secondary schools. But the other one is the fast one, where you try to train your professional workforce on accepting and implementing new innovations in there. And that's what we need. I think that also brings a little bit to the transversality in there, I think it's not something that is restricted to water, but just to take one example, within UNESCO, they started with the SDGs also on SDG number 4. So that's next to SDG 6. Number 4 is the one on education. They started to look at how well climate change was integrated in there. And I wanted to use this example because I do think, and I think you heard that also today from the earlier speakers, that climate change is one of the drivers and the changes that we're facing that needs to be addressed. And that's one of the reasons why SDG 6 is a challenge that is even increasing in time. But if you then look on how well that is established within schools, and they did a research this year. So if you look at the UNESCO website, you can read the full research in there. But there you will see that only in 15% of grade 3 and grade 6, both in science and social sciences curricula, they contain references to climate change. In there, you will also find some numbers on the environment. That's slightly higher, but I still think it's lower than 30%. And I think water is both in the environment because of the water quality side and in the climate side because of this excess or shortage of water that we're facing at the moment. I know that in secondary school it's slightly better. It increases to about 30%, but still I think that both for primary and secondary schools, we could make a big step by trying to get water-related topics better embedded within the education system. And like I said, I think we should do that, for example, on topics like water corporation next to water quality. I think that if you look at the academic side, there is a step being made there by integrating water diplomacy, international law, and conflict resolution in curricula. But I think at primary and secondary schools, in letting students know the importance of water, but also the sharing about water and what relations there are between say upstream and downstream countries is becoming a bigger and bigger issue, especially if you would like to address potential transboundary disputes. Transboundary is international disputes, but even disputes between farmers living next to each other, between villages, but also what I often see in different countries is also disputes between lower government and national government where they have to share waters, and that's becoming a bigger and bigger challenge to do that in a good way. So I do think that education may help to facilitate governments to do that. Secondly, I do think that resources are required, and also there I appreciated also what the ADB mentioned, and I think that's also coming forward about other investments. So I do think that we need those investments both for infrastructure, but I also think we need investments for the softer side, being people that are able to operate and maintain the infrastructure that we want to implement, but also to accept changes at home in taking care of the amount of water that you use at home, or taking care about the water that you use on your farm or for other economic purposes. I think that what we also require is maybe a rethinking about investments there, and that's for me a plea actually to my financial colleagues, because I'm not the expert there, but I do think that we need actually a sort of return on investment that is expressed in social impact and not only in financial impact and return on investments, because I think for some of the changes that we are looking for, they need such a long time that an only financial return on investment will never enable investment to take place. But I think a social impact may help there. So I'm quite interested if such a development, for example, in the form of social impact bonds is possible. And then my last take-home message is twofold. It's in relation to the UN Water Conference that will take place. I think it would be very good, also in this transversality, say, thinking that we have, to see how, for example, we could invite ministers of education to join ministers of water and come to the UN Water Conference and discuss about how to further strengthen actually the integration of water education in schools, both primary and secondary schools, but also in higher education. But there I do see also that we need an empowerment of water professionals, that are enabled actually by financing, but also facilitating them to follow a training to absorb actually the new innovations that are there and see how we can, by doing this, speed up the innovations I think that we require to enable SDG 6 to be achieved. So with that, I would like to stop my presentation and would like to thank you actually for the opportunity to share a few words with you about capacity development in relation to transversality and water. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edimos, and definitely education is very important. If education is inculcated in young minds from the beginning, I'm sure that we would not be facing the kind of stress that we are facing right now with natural resource degradation. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Ms. 𝐿𝐻𝐿, Deputy Executive Director of the International Water Resources Association. He supports the association's strategic direction, global programs, partnerships, communications and governance, and international relations and communication professional with over 20 years of experience. He has worked at the intersection of water, sustainable development, and international cooperation. 𝐿𝐻𝐿, please.
Thank you very much. Dear Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear colleagues, and dear co-speakers. It is a great pleasure to join you today. My name is 𝐿𝐻𝐿, and I am the Deputy Executive Director of the International Water Resources Association. I would like to thank the India Water Foundation for organizing this important event and for inviting IWRA to support today's session. So for more than 55 years, IWRA has connected science, policy, and practice through a global network of researchers, water professionals, policymakers, practitioners, international organizations, civil society, and the private sector. And today, we count a membership of more than 5,500 individuals, water professionals from all disciplines and all regions of the world. We can say it's a truly global community. After listening to the inspiring interventions from my co-speakers here in the session, one message is clearly communicated, seen and heard. Water is not simply another sector, it is the connector. And this is precisely what we mean by water transversality. Water is at the heart of the 2030 agenda. It underpins food security, public health, energy, biodiversity, resilient cities, economic development, and climate adaptation, and so on. While today we are discussing SDG 6, we are in reality talking about all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And yet today water is under fire. It is under pressure from climate change, pollution, over-abstraction, biodiversity loss, and growing demand. In some parts of the world, water infrastructure has even become a casualty of conflict, putting millions of lives at risk. We all know the figures too well. We've just heard many of them. We all know about the urgency they represent. The numbers remind us of the scale of the change. The 2030 agenda is only 4 years away. Where are we now? More than 2.1 billion people still lack safely managed drinking water, while 3.4 billion people do not have access to safely managed sanitation. Globally, only around half of domestic wastewater is safely treated, and up to 80% or even more of overall wastewater is discharged without proper treatment. Untreated municipal industrial wastewater remain among the major sources of water pollution. And agriculture accounts for over 70% of global freshwater withdrawal, and so on. These are not simply statistics. These are not simply water challenges. We here today, we all know very well how to read the statistics and what is behind them and the story they tell. They affect all our lives. For some, it means not filling up the swimming pool or watering the lawn. For others, it means increasing wildfires, as it's happening currently in Europe. but also they represent children unable to attend school because of inadequate sanitation, of people, mainly women and girls, spending hours each day collecting water and wasting their energy and health in doing so. Farmers facing increasing uncertainty, communities exposed to preventable diseases, and economies not flourishing, and ecosystems under growing stress. This is what we mean by water transversality, and this is why multi-stakeholder partnerships are indispensable. Governments create the enabling policies, scientists generate the evidence, utilities and service providers deliver essential services, private sector contributes innovation and investment, civil society ensures that communities are heard, international and multilateral organizations and organisms facilitate cooperation across borders. Each has an essential role to play. None can succeed alone. And the International Water Resources Association, we have spent more than 55 years bringing these communities together. We see our role as a bridge between science, policy, and practice, creating spaces where evidence informs decisions and where partnerships become lasting actions. As we all prepare now for the 2026 UN Water Conference, we have a unique opportunity to move beyond commitments and accelerate implementation. The conference should not be the destination, it should be the catalyst. Its true legal legacy will be measured by the partnerships we strengthen, the knowledge we share, and the actions we take afterwards. IWRA is committed to supporting that momentum. Just weeks after the UN Water Conference, we will convene the second Islands Water Congress in Jamaica in January 27. Islands are among the first to experience water scarcity, climate impacts, and extreme weathers, but they are also leaders in resilience, innovation, and integrated water management. IWRA's Second Islands Water Congress provides a platform to translate global commitments into practical solutions for islands, communities, and beyond. And later that year, in October 27, we will welcome the global water community to Istanbul at IWRA's 20th World Water Congress. Under the theme Smart, Resilient, and Circular Water in Transition, the Congress will bring together scientists, policymakers, practitioners, business, and civil society to continue the dialogue, strengthen partnerships, and advance evidence-based solutions for a rapidly changing world. We warmly invite you all to join us in continuing this global dialogue. Because if today's discussion reminds us of one thing, it is water's under fire. And through stronger partnerships, better science, inclusive governance, collective action, water is our greatest connector. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, 𝐿𝐿𝐿, and definitely wastewater treatment is something that is not optimal in most of the countries, and we just cannot waste the resource like that. It can be used in n number of ways. So thank you so much for your intervention. We have to take up circularity approach anyway. We just cannot do without. So the next speaker from CBEN today is Dr. Neera Shrestha Pradhan. She is a water and DRR lead at ICI Mode. She has over 20 years of professional experience in the fields of disaster risk resilience, river basin management, environmental management, and freshwater conservation. She worked with organizations such as WWF Nepal, IUCN Asia, and IUCN Nepal before joining ICI Mode. Dr. Pradhan, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Sweta and India Water Foundation for convening this very important dialogue. And ICI Mode is happy to join hands in this. As we have heard from the previous distinguished speakers, the concept of water transversality makes a compelling case for water linkages across energy, food, health, biodiversity, climate, and also education, as Dr. Eddy has mentioned. Working in 𝐼𝐶 for more than 20 years and working in the Hindu Kush Himalaya, the source of 10 major river systems serving more than 2 billion people downstream, I want to add one more dimension to this horizontal linkages of water transversality. That is the concept of vertical linkages. As we know, water moves vertically from glaciers to ocean, and therefore to build a coherent national and subnational policy, we should consider upstream downstream linkages. We've talked about river basins here earlier, but the upstream downstream linkage is very important. And being 𝐼𝐶, we would also like to look at the regional coherence, not only the national and subnational. When we say regional, the linkages need not be only geographical, but it can also be knowledge sharing and evidence generation. We have examples like the networks, Indus Basin Network, Brahmaputra Basin Network, and the Ganges Basin Network. We also have experience of hubs like HKH, Hindu Kush Himalaya, DRR Hub, Cryosphere Hub, where we bring in experts and discuss common issues of concern and opportunities. And when we talk about mountain region, it also supplies water, carbon storage, and biodiversity that downstream communities rely on. Yet it remains the least financed. One working model that we can look at is worth scaling is benefit sharing. We also talked about the upstream downstream linkages and benefit sharing. Recognizing benefits from river due to the river and beyond the river, not only just direct water use from the river. So this can be well built into blended finance architecture, and partnership is the key to it. When we look at the partnerships, then it is the public sector that needs to anchor the basin level coordination. Private sector should fund resilient infrastructures, and philanthropic should de-risk investments, whereas scientists, academicians can generate data and information. So talking about de-risking, in our Hindu Kush Himalaya, warming, it is warming at 0.28 degrees centigrade per decade, with glacier mass loss up to 65% compared to last decade. Nearly 1 million people near glacier lakes face outburst flood risk by the century's end. So normally, when we look at water insecurity, it is treated as a chronic problem, underfinancing, fragmented governance. But in the mountain areas and downstreams where we live, insecurity often comes as a shock, like the glacier lake outburst floods, the flash floods, landslide dammed rivers. And a single flood can erase the decade of wash investment. So therefore, DRR need to be built into disaster risk reduction, DRR need to be built into the water transversality framework as a core pillar alongside finance and governance. Otherwise, we are financing infrastructure that we haven't protected. And 𝐼𝐶 is coming up with climate resilient infrastructure guidelines where we are looking at hydropower sector together with ADB and other partners. We are also working on risk-informed early warning system and risk hotspot mapping that might be important for this DRR sector. On a meaningful participation, most national SDG indicators are reported as a country-level averages. A country can look on track for water access nationally, while its mountain, remote, or women-headed households are far behind because these groups get easily averaged out. 𝐼𝐶's argument is that inclusion starts with being counted. With altitude and remoteness disaggregated data, mountain communities cannot be identified as underserved, cannot be targeted for finance or early warning systems. So meaningful participation must move beyond consultation towards being counted and designed for disaggregated data, local decision-making roles, and dedicated seats in subnational and national water partnership architectures. So with this, to end my presentation, I would like to point out 3 key takeaways. The first one, when we're talking about water transversality, it needs a vertical dimension, not just horizontal one, and need to consider the upstream and downstream linkages. Secondly, DRR must be a core pillar of water transversality, not an afterthought. And thirdly, meaningful participation requires disaggregated data and being counted, not just being consulted. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pradhan, for bringing out de-risking our infrastructure and sharing how important DRR is when we are in today's time of climate change and global warming. And we were in Europe in June, and we were all almost melting like people are there. So I align with what you have been saying. Thank you so much. The last speaker, but not the least at all, for today's evening is Mr. 𝐼𝐻𝐿 Mitra, Senior Water Economist at the World Bank. He works on water resource management, groundwater governance, irrigation, climate resilience, and water energy nexus. His research focuses on applying economic analysis to inform evidence-based policies for sustainable water management and climate adaptation. His work integrates economics, policy, and field-based research to advance resilient and inclusive water security solutions for developing countries. Mr. Mitra, please.
Thank you, Shweta, for giving this opportunity to speak at such a distinguished panel. I thank my previous speakers. I think the advantage of being the last speaker is most of the important points have already been covered. I think my previous speakers have very aptly pointed out the enormity of the challenge and the urgency of it. Like so many billions of people still lack safely managed wash access, and the huge financing gap that there is. The urgency in terms of 2030 is just 4 years away. Still, SDG 6 needs to be achieved by them. And then with climate change, we need to act quick. So this is today's reality. And what it tells us that water is a systems problem. It is not a sectoral problem, and it needs system solutions. And this panel today focusing on water transversality as an integrated approach is the need of the hour. So what I'll do today is I'll just focus on three key areas where I believe we can move from principle to action. One is community engagement, another is private capital mobilization, and the third is water accounting. So let me start with communities, because too often this is treated as the softer part of the conversation, but it is not. It is the foundational part. Decades of water infrastructure investment have produced consistent finding that projects without meaningful community ownership fails. And from the perspective of coherent action on water actually requires community to be on board from the start. I'll just give one example, that program of India, that Atal Bhujal Yojana on groundwater management, which actually worked with communities in groundwater management. So what it did was it trained communities on water budgeting and making water security plans. A huge investment was made in terms of this softer skill development and community awareness. And then once these water security plans are being made, these were used to mobilize finance from existing government schemes through convergence. So what it does is already there are different schemes, but these are often working separately. There's not targeted. And what this engaging with the community to making these water security plans, what it helps is it aligns government investments from different sectors to the common goal of groundwater management. So this is one example, but the principle still holds that, for example, community needs to be educated and needs to be given their capability needs to be enriched so that they can become the decision makers and they can enable actually at the ground level the convergence that we are talking about. Next, I think I want to talk about private capital mobilization. As everybody, like most of the speakers have identified that public finance is not enough. And that is true. So what is the role of public finance? I think the role of public finance is for de-risking and basically leverage public finance for more private capital mobilization. It could be results-based financing, pooled bonds. Then there are examples of many multilateral banks have been working with municipalities to have different types of financial instruments, including pooled bonds, which can be used to leverage financing from the private sector. And what it needs is basically many of our water utilities are unbankable. They're seen as unbankable. And where the public sector and the civil society and banks can work on is basically to improve the efficiency, both in terms of their operation, but also in their financial record keeping, how they manage their finances, to make these utilities bankable, which can then be leveraged for bringing in more finance. And my final point would be on water accounting. Now, my previous speakers have touched upon that in a more broader aspect in terms of integrated water resources management. And water accounting is inseparable from this broader imperative. The reason I'm focusing on water accounting is basically I feel that it has a much quicker, it's a low-hanging fruit that that can be tapped into. The data monitoring system, the hydrological monitoring system, etc., have developed in recent years hugely. Now you can use remote sensing for many of these measurements that we want to do. And even the monitoring network in the last 2 decades have improved immensely. If we take India, for example, or broadly in South Asia, this has improved immensely. But still what it lacks is that doing water accounting at a state level, with different sectoral, there could be sectoral group of secretaries at the state levels who could have the mandate for doing this water accounting. And what it does is it becomes the operational foundation for IWRM, not a parallel exercise. Systematically tracking where it goes, how it is being used, will really make IWRM operational, and it can be done. It's not a huge task to be done. The only challenge I feel will be the groundwater measurements, which is really difficult to track. But even there, some advancements are being made. Even there are innovative ways of using energy to sort of understand, okay, how much groundwater is being pumped. So briefly, I would say these are the 3 sort of low-hanging fruits that can be if we want to achieve. Once again for giving me this opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mitra, and for pointing out a very important factor, water accounting, which needs to be taken into consideration, especially in a country like India, where people rely on groundwater for agriculture hugely. So thank you for pointing it out. I would have asked all of you to give me a second round of small, brief intervention, a lasting remark, but due to lack of time, please excuse me. And I have noted down certain questions which have been directed to some panelists. I will mail them to them so that the audience get their answers from those panelists. And so after listening to all these wonderful speakers, what I gather from this dialogue is that we need to adopt and promote a water systems partnership to overcome challenges through solutions that are beneficial for all. The scope and ambition of the 2030 agenda had already financial gaps were existing there within the water sector, demand more than traditional public finance and ODA. These gains demonstrate that progress is possible when political commitment, financing, and institutions align. They require collective and inclusive efforts from governments, banks, private sector, philanthropy, as well as civil society, for which a stable regulatory, institutional, and policy environment is essential. New inclusive governance and circular business models are a must when working towards accelerated cross-sectoral implementation. Multi-sector and multi-stakeholder partnerships are needed at the systemic level to optimize the use of scarce resources and accounting for the maximization of co-benefits and minimization of trade-offs, cutting out subsidies, for instance. There is no doubt that climate change will induce more stress on the natural resources, including water, in the years to come. Therefore, climate policy makers must put water at the heart of action plans. As mentioned by Mr. Ghosh and others, climate-smart agriculture has to be adopted. Decentralized wastewater treatments, more scientific collaboration, financial investment, and data, education and information exchange will be key to make informed decisions to accelerate implementation of SDG 6. The need to consider interdependencies and co-benefits with other sectors in planning, policy making, and action requires capacity, knowledge, and the willingness to overcome sector and institutional fragmentation, and adopting transversality approach with not just horizontal linkages, but also vertical. Transversality should become a beacon to guide action and hopefully as a trigger for innovation, providing clarity and drive to help accelerate action on SDG 6. We are grateful to the World Water Council, International Network of Basin Organizations, International Water Resources Association, and ICI Mode for supporting this event and taking out time from all your extremely busy schedules for us and gracing this event. I also thank my wonderful online audience who have joined from all over the world from different time zones to benefit from this deliberations. Thank you so much, all of you, and we look forward to collaborating in the future for other events as well, maybe in person or maybe virtually. Thank you so much, all of you wonderful audience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sveta.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
great day
Bye-bye.
and a great night ahead.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.